Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a beer, it's time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today, what I wanted to do is showcase a reasonably low budget method of crafting a reasonably solid bow for an elemental hit fire character. So this is particularly popular on raiders at the moment, and this is a strategy that you can use that can be done at various different budgets. The key point is what you consider to be too good to roll over. Ultimately, what we're going to do is start with the bow that is, generally speaking, the best base for a bow that is being used for an elemental hit character. Now this is only the best base for a character that is doing fire damage with elemental hit, but you'll notice that the implicit modifier on this Solarine Bow, ignore all the rest of the mods, just pretend it was scoured. You've got adds 109 to 172 fire damage. That's a fairly good roll. 105 to 116 is the bottom, so 109's in the middle there, but 172 is the top roll at the top. So that's a really significant chunk of damage, and more than makes up for the fact that it has a lower base attack rate than some of the other popular bows. So Thicket Bow would be one of the other popular bows, or a Grove Bow for an elemental hit build, but the base damage tends to work out better on the Solarine. So that's the reason for choosing this. Solarine bows come from heist content, and one thing that's important, you'll notice that I've chosen an item level 86 one. So this can only come from a grand heist that drops replicas or experimented bases, Solarine Bow being one of the experimented bases, and it can only come from a monster level 83 grand heist. The reason that we're doing that is that it's going to add a couple of extremely good possible outcomes that could come up if we get really lucky. So the extremely good potential outcomes are in the normal mod pool. We have access to Of the Many, which adds two projectiles to attacks. This is a very, 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 very rare roll. However, it can happen. If it comes up, instead of getting a bow that might be 3 or 4 or 5 Exalted Orbs, you may have something that's worth 20 or more. The other thing that is possible on an item level 85 or higher bow, and this is entirely optional. You'll notice I'm sitting here with a couple of Crusader Exalted Orbs. The reason for that is that I can apply a Crusader Exalted Orb to apply Crusader Influence at a certain point. We'll get to when you do that. And in doing so, the benefit that we get is a slim chance of hitting 2 additional very powerful mods, Projectiles Chain and Projectiles Fork. These are both very, very rare rolls as well, and ultimately it may or may not be worth your while using that option. I just wanted to state that it's there. I'm going to do it because it's the end of the league and, you know, may as well shoot for the moon, but at the start of the league you can certainly skip that step. So the first thing we want to do is we need to 6-link the bow, and also because we're going to have a 6-link base that's going to be quite useful, we're also going to use a split beast, a Phenomenal Plagued Arachnid. These were made much cheaper in the current league because they were considerably nerfed, and that means that they're just ideal here. We're going to basically get 2 bows for the price of 1. So our first step is going to be to get a bunch of quality on this. I'm using 1 perfect fossil, only hit 20 quality, but that will do. And now we're just going to check to see if we've got space for crafting additional quality. We don't, so we are going to hit this with a Scouring Orb first, and then we're going to bench craft a little bit of quality on it. So there's a number of bench crafts that will let you get quality beyond whatever your perfect fossil hits. I would have liked to have hit sort of 24 or more, but I didn't, and I don't have any more perfect fossils, and I'm not going to bother going to the effort of purchasing more. So here we go. This Solarine Bow is now a 35 quality, and that should make it easier to apply Jeweler's Orbs and to apply Fusing Orbs to it. Now I may not have enough Fusing Orbs to hit this. I actually hit Jeweler's Orbs quickly. The last time I was, 5 link on the first try. I'm going to roll over 5 links though. We're going for a 6 because you're looking for something reasonably powerful. Early in the league you would never roll over a 5 link, you would sell it and start again, but with a Solarine Bow the base was 30 chaos anyway, so it doesn't feel so bad to just say, alright, I'm going to keep trying. Alright, at this point I'm going to burn through all my fusings, and once I've burnt through my fusings I will source more of them, and get myself a Solarine Bow that is 6-linked, and then at that point, that is when we are going to use that split beast, and then we're going to go from having 1 of them to having 2. One thing that's really important, you cannot split a 6-link with a Fusing Orb. So you can safely do this, just spam your fusings without actually needing to look. You can roll over a 5-link, so if you're concerned about the possibility of rolling over a 5-link, especially if it's at the start of the league that you're following this sort of guide, then at that point you would want to not do that. So, burn through all the rest of these fusings. And once we know whether we're going to get there or not, I will then... Alright, it looks like I need to pause the video, get some more of them, and then we will be back. Okay, so while I was off stream, I burnt through about 200 Jeweler's Orbs and about 1200 Fusing Orbs, and now we've gotten this to a position where we can continue. So this is now 6-linked. The reason that we 6-link now is an important one, and that is we're going to use the Split Beast next. So our next step is going to be to make this into a rare item, as that's essential for purposes of the Split Beast. And to make sure that you don't hit anything that's too good to roll over, it's very, very unlikely that you would. So I'm going to use one of these phenomenal plagued arachnid beasts, which this one doesn't seem to want to click properly. I might just try the other one, see if that's going to behave a little bit better than that one was. Yeah. I'll just jump over to Einhar's Menagerie, and at that point we'll see if we can make it work there. Okay, that's better. So that's been added to my bestiary, which means I can use it. It's only a monster level 75 beast. That doesn't matter, it just means that the fight will be a little bit easier. And so we're going to go down here and have a look and see. We've got split an item into two with half the mods on each item. We now need to succeed at this actual beast fight, but because the red beast is only level 75 and the others are all even lower, this should be an absolute cakewalk. Even if you're not playing a particularly strong character, these fights are not very hard usually. So, we now have two of these Solarine Bows. The important thing is that both of them now are 6-linked, and both of them have the split modifier, which means they cannot further be split. Now at this point we have an option. We could use the Crusader's Exalted Orbs, as I was talking about before. I'm going to do that. I don't recommend you do, but I'm just going to do it because it's late in the league. It's one of those crafting projects that you can just throw a bit of currency into. Ultimately, it's not a winner in current market conditions, but it does give you the chance to hit something amazing. And now from here, we are fossil crafting. What we're looking to do here is roll +1 to the level of socketed gems at the same time as +2 to the level of all socketed bow gems. That's really strong on elemental hit. Additionally, we're going to be using fossils that don't actually make those rolls more common, but we're going to be using ones that block a lot of things. So you'll notice that Corroded Fossil blocks all elemental modifiers. There are a lot of elemental modifiers that can roll. Metallic Fossil blocks all physical modifiers. Again, a lot of physical modifiers can roll. And whilst it makes lightning modifiers more common, that's nullified by the Corroded Fossil because that makes all lightning modifiers unable to roll. Additionally, we are using Jagged Fossil, which makes it more likely to roll physical modifiers, but you cannot roll chaos modifiers. There's a number of chaos modifiers as well. Depending upon the specific market conditions, it may be better to use a different combination of fossils, but this one should always be pretty good, especially given that they're all relatively common fossils. And the best thing is, it's really quite likely to hit what we're looking for here. So here's a miss. We hit +1 to the level of socketed gems, but we didn't get anything else that we wanted. And so we could conceivably, if the other mods on this were great, there would be ways that we could continue crafting from here. But the of Lion mod is not all that great. It's sort of okay. And the other modifiers are just not all that good at all. So we're going to roll over that. But were we to get +1 to the level of socketed gems, but not bow gems, there are a couple of options you can consider. Now, +1 to the level of socketed gems and +1 to the level of socketed bow gems. This is a fail, unfortunately. We definitely want that Fletcher's mod to be the higher tier version of it. So that's a brick. We're going to roll over it, even though it's got one of the mods that we want. +1 to the level of socketed bow gems is useless. Yeah, this is just complete rubbish. 1 and 1 again, unfortunately. This one has attack speed on it, which would normally be a good thing to see, but we're just not interested when it comes with the 1 and 1 instead of 1 and 2. Those mods are so important on elemental hit that we're just going to keep rolling until we get them. This time I'm having a little bit of worse luck than I did last time, but it's not particularly bad. Now, here's an interesting one. We've got Paragons, we've got attack speed. There are a couple of options you could go with here, but none of them are really worth it. So for that reason, we're just going to roll over that. Now this time we got +2 to the level of socketed bow gems and an attack speed roll. If that attack speed roll was higher tier, what I would do is hit this with an annulment orb, and the goal of that annulment orb would be to delete one of the undesirable suffixes. And then at that point, we would then hit this this bow with the suffix, with the crafted suffix cannot roll attack modifiers, and then we would use an Exalted orb on it. However, it's not worth it because of the the fact that the attack speed roll is not high enough tier. So 1 and 1 again, but we got bow attacks fire an additional arrow. That's the lower tier version. That just isn't quite terrible. So for this, at the moment, I'm going to leave this one intact. This is something you can roll over. There's nothing wrong with rolling over it. It's just that the of splintering mod is fairly uncommon and fairly strong. This is something that you would eventually roll over, but that is okay for now. +2 to bow gems, and when everything else is trash, so that one's unfortunately rubbish. They're actually performing a lot worse than the last time I did this craft. Normally this craft is pretty reliable. You get what you're looking for pretty quickly. That's rubbish, and that one has the +2, but doesn't have the rest of the stuff we're looking for. So unfortunately, we've had no luck with this. Normally, the odds of the odds of hitting +1 and +2 are pretty high. At this point, I need to source more corroded fossils, then we can continue with the craft. Alrighty, I just picked up 15 corroded fossils, so we're now in a position to continue attempting this craft. Once more, this should be... I have a reasonably good chance of getting this, but of course RNG is a fickle mistress sometimes, and sometimes just decides not to play nicely with you. So, we're going to see what we get here. That's a brick. You'll notice I'm using the the alchemical resonators. It's just because I've run out of the other ones. That's the Crusader mod. Projectiles deal 20% increased damage for each enemy pierced. That's a low tier one. Higher tier ones can be quite good of that mod, but they need to be very high tier. Unfortunately, again, nothing is showing up here. We're really having a bad time getting this. Bow attacks fire an additional arrow with +1 to socketed gems is a solid combination here, except for the fact that the missing mod, the +2 to the level of bow gems, is attack tagged, and that means that it's actually very hard to roll that on there. So for that reason, although I'm not necessarily rolling over this one yet, I am willing to roll over this because I'm not likely to be able to complete that. So we will now throw another few in there and get... So clumsy doing this. Wish there was a better way of making these happen. So we're going to hit this one. No, that's a brick. That's a brick. It's having much better luck earlier today. But that's the way that RNG works. Sometimes you have a good run, sometimes you have a bad run. This is a bad run. The Crusader influence doesn't have any meaningful impact on the chances of this craft succeeding. It's just that I'm genuinely being unlucky right now. There we go. +1 and +2 and increased attack speed tier 3 and an additional arrow. This is a seriously good hit. This is an outstanding bow. This is something that's far better than what I was expecting. Notice I didn't actually hit any of the Crusader mods. If that 53 dexterity had instead been one of the powerful Crusader mods, then this would be a spectacular hit. With that in mind, I'm actually going to roll over this one. I was giving it a bit more thought when I was on pause before, and I realized that there's no really good way to improve this. And so for that reason, I'm just going to see what we get with our last attempt that I've got prepared. And that is interesting. That's got +1. Oh no, it's +1 to the level of socketed bow gems. I misread that as +1 to all. So that's unfortunately of no use to us. At this point, I'm going to pause again and source more materials, and then we're going to keep trying with what was Skullwing. Okay, and we are back to it now. I've got another 5 attempts ready, so we're going to go with the corroded fossil. This time I'm not going to actually finalize, because I may not use all of these resonators. One little trick that's useful when you're fossil crafting is that when you've only put some of the resonators in, you can actually undo that. So if I hit amazingly with this one, +1, +1 unfortunately, so that's another miss, even though the other mods are not terrible. So if I'd hit amazingly with that though, then I could actually stop at that point. So we have the corroded and the jagged. We need the metallic to finish it, and we'll see if we get there. +2 to the level of socketed bow gems. The rest of this isn't good enough to merit the spending 2 exalts finishing it, because we could force that +1 to the level of socketed, of all socketed gems. If this had +2 to the level of socketed bow gems and a good attack speed roll, or one of the amazing Crusader mods, then I wouldn't be scouring it now. +1 to socketed gems is nice, but it has nothing else, so that's unfortunately a brick, and we're going to try again. +1 with nothing. We know what to do. And unfortunately, we've got +1/+1 here, so we haven't succeeded in going any further at this point. Now, one thing you may be wondering is why I'm not using faceted fossils here. Faceted fossils make every single mod we're trying to hit more common, and so they are viable. It's just that the cost is extraordinarily high. Is it worth it? That's up to you. Current market conditions say no. So we have 1 hit so far. This has a spare prefix on it, and there are some solid prefixes that can be crafted. We could craft flat fire damage on it, which I don't think I actually have the right mod for. Oh, yes, I do. Yep. So you can craft flat fire damage on it, and then it is basically in a very usable state. This is genuinely a good bow right now, even though it's not absolutely perfect. That's the sort of thing that I would sell in the, or that I would list in the 9 to 10 exalt range, and we'll see what happens as far as selling it goes. This one, however, is not really in a usable state. Someone might buy it because they want to just use it for the moment, but I doubt it. And ultimately, I think it's worthwhile just leaving it as is for the moment and coming back and crafting further. Anyways, that's crafting Solarine Bows for Elemental Hit Raiders, or not just Raiders, Elemental Hit Fire characters. If you've got any comments or questions, fire away below. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it there, and I hope you have a good one.